What's up, self-healers? Lisa Lightfeather here. Welcome to my channel, Closing the Gap. We make a conscious effort to meet you where you're at on your healing and your spiritual journey. Today, I wanted to come on and speak about a topic about the H.N.I.C. Specifically in the family dynamic, but I want to give you a couple examples of what the H.N.I.C. is in other settings. So, in the so-called African American community, we have a slang term that refers to the H.N.I.C., which stands for the head nigga in charge. But in this case, it stands for the head narcissist in charge, also known as the handler. So the empath will have several handlers throughout their life. The first handler the empath normally has is one of their parents, either their mother or their father. And then they may have a handler within the school system. You know, wherever they go, there's a handler there, someone who handles them, to directs what happens to them and ensures that it negates the empath's mission in some way. For example, if it's the mother, then she automatically starts telling the child that they're nothing, that they'll never be nothing. She starts beating the child's self-esteem down. If the handler is the teacher may belittle the child and tell the child that they're not capable of learning, and not acknowledge that the child learns in different ways, and just makes the child feel stupid, and may very well even say that the child is stupid. So the handler is a person who organizes the harassment of the empath. So a handler can come in the form of a bully who gathers all the other children up, and then the bully is the main one hurting the empath, but all the other children are the ones sitting there going, ha, 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 you got beat up, ha, 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 look what happened to you. So, but the handler is the actual one that either does the bullying, and the handler may also assign someone else, which is also known as flying monkeys. And so the handler is the bully, and they may get all the other children riled up so the other children don't like you, and get one of the other children to fight the empath. So the handler can look like several people. The handler can look like a boss at a job, right? They may be intimidated by your performance, or they may just be intimidated by your dedication or your work ethic. And these H.N.I.Cs, these handlers, these head narcs in charge, they recognize when there's a true empath around them, and they immediately start tearing them down. This is one of the reasons that the workforce never works out for the true empath, because as soon as the true empath gets in there, everybody on the job starts coming against them in some way. Excuse me. Whenever they're seeing the clouds, which they've been doing lately, it activates my allergies. I don't know what they're spraying and stuff like that, but I'll see those small white planes go over. Whenever you see those small white crop planes flying over, that's what they're doing. They're cloud seeding. It rains shortly after. Pay attention. You'll know what I'm talking about. So the handler is constantly on the empath's back wherever they go, whether it's from their mother to the school, from the school to the playground, from the playground to high school, so forth and so on. And then they get into a relationship, and then they're with another handler. So the handler shifts. But the primary handler that never goes away, right, is the handler, the head narc in charge in the family. So it's usually a parent. But once that parent gets finished rotting and they finally transition, usually one of the siblings or one of their children or one of their brothers or sisters will take charge of the family. Now, by this time, the empath has probably had their own children and has their own grandchildren, or whatever the case may be. Now, it's the head narc in charge, the handler's business, to recruit the empath's children or the empath's grandchildren, to recruit all the nieces and nephews to think the way that they think, trying to control the family because the mom or the dad has died. And so now that sibling or that uncle or aunt or whatever steps up and they take the narcissist's place, the handler's place. Now they start handling because it's in their contract that they would prevent the generational curses from being broken. They disguise this handling behind love, fake love, actually. And they manipulate the nieces and the nephews, the grandchildren, to be and do what they want them to be. They become the flying monkeys. They spread this energy of narcissism to the other people in the family. So the empath's own children might be a narc, own grandchildren. And so they ensure that the narcissism keeps going. Now, if there is another empath born within the family, the handler, the head narc in charge, gets this child. And this child is in a lot of danger. Because what that narcissist does then is they start manipulating the child. Eventually the child sees that they're being manipulated, and then now the child's in danger. They can even do things like molest the child, molest them mentally. They will do whatever they can because they can see that that child is also an empath and also has a calling. The handler's job within the family dynamic is to ensure that the empath that is there to break generational curses is unsuccessful. And so the empath doesn't think like that. They don't think that they have to go gather up all the family and let's team up against the narc and let's do that. The empath's not thinking like that. The narcissist is thinking like that. Like, I need all these flying monkeys on my team. Now, it's obvious that this narc has been a detriment to the family. They're probably extreme drug users. They probably been to prison. They use the abortion clinic as birth control. They got Plan B on tap. They got mattresses tied to their back. They're boot-licking, ass-kissing, spineless jellyfish. Just like the head nigga in charge on the job. And so they put a lot of effort into gathering what's left of the family together to be behind their back. And then they say, look, it's not me, it's the empath. And a lot of the people that are behind the narcissist, the handler, they just become flying monkeys, either knowingly, right? Because some of them are turning into narcs too, or unknowingly. And they just think the empath is just staying to themselves because that's what they want to do. They don't know that the narcissist has basically, ultimately, in a roundabout way, isolated the empath. The empath has to isolate themselves because the attacks keep coming and coming and coming from the family dynamic, even from their own children. Now the grandchildren are in danger because now the narcissist has to groom the next generation. And a lot of times the narcissist has more access to the next generation than the empath does because the empath has been isolated. The narcissist will activate their foot soldiers, their flying monkeys, to stay consistent in the harassing of the empath. The handler is the ringleader, the influencer of the family. Even though they have no grounds to be influencing anything. They've been nothing but garbage their whole lives. But because they're master manipulators, they go in there, oh, I'm so sorry for what I did. I can be a better mother. I can be a better father. I can do this. I can do that. The whole time, they're just demons behind a mask. They'll play the victim of the empath. She said this, they will lie on the empath. I had one of them lie on me and said that I wished them unalived. I had one of them lie on me about my favorite niece and tell my favorite niece that I said she was a whore. And my niece, they're probably like, well, mom has no reason to lie, right? But when I come back and say, I promise I didn't say that, you know, She may believe me, she may not, but she's in between a rock and a hard place. The handler hates the empath because the empath has shattered the family mask, and the handler's there with glue, trying to keep it together, trying to make the empath look bad. And like I said, they do this directly in contact with gaslighting to the empath's face, or indirectly because they're pulling the strings behind the scenes. They're pulling the strings behind the scenes. They'll accuse the empath of wanting to sleep with their men and things of that sort. And then the narc behind the scenes, the head narc in charge, will encourage the younger narcs. Well, since she wants to sleep with your man, go sleep with hers. It gets real nasty. These clowns, I'm telling you, it's a fucking circus. These monkeys. It's a circus. Once you get used to the narcissist, they just become hilarious because they don't come with anything new. It's always the same tactics. But at first, as a baby empath or an unhealed empath, you are devastated. You're hurt. You're crushed. You're like, what is going on? And you can't explain it. It's hard to verbalize. And so people will look at you and think you're crazy. There's no way your family's doing that to you. There's no way. Nobody does that. But that head narcissist in charge, the handler, they are on a mission, just as the empath is on a mission. And it's scary because a lot of times they have more access to your children than you do because they've recruited them in. And because the empath is constantly talking about healing and how we can fix things and how we can get things better, it's easier to just go with generational curses. It's easier to go with the flow of the curse than it is to make significant change. They encourage the children, the next generation, to be narcissists. To only think about money. To only think about sex. To only think about escapism. To only think about being self-centered. That's the kind of things that they teach the generations that follow. A lot of times the only thing the empath can do is pray over their children and their grandchildren. Because the narcissist undoubtedly from the beginning has had a plan to have them on their team and to turn them against the empath. Now, I believe that the empath will eventually win. I do. Because a lot of us are waking up, and a lot of us are coming to the table, and a lot of us are coming to the forefront and saying enough is enough. The narcissist population is growing bigger and bigger and bigger. A lot of it has to do with social media and the internet and them getting to be front and center and taking selfies of themselves farting. Look, I farted. Everything has to be on camera. Everything. Nothing gets left off the internet. And it's all for show. They'll have some big fancy $3,000 birthday party. The kids can't even have fun. Because the narc has them over there taking pictures the whole time. The kids want to go play. They don't want to be up under your musty ass. So a handler can look like a lot of different things, but the worst handler for the empath is the handler of the family. That is your worst enemy, the handler of the family. Because they are the ones that are directly going against what you are going for to break the generational curses and to heal. They are the ones that are directly going against it. So in the military, you have targets. You got the 50-meter target. You got the 75-meter target. You got the 100-meter target. You got the 150. You got the 200. You got the 250. And you got the 300-meter target. The 300-meter target may be a bully at work, or the guy on the highway that's cussing you out because narcissists, they always drive aggressively. And so the guy on the highway, that may be the 300-meter target. But that 50-meter target, that's your family member. That's the one you got to watch out for, because that's the one that's directly in charge of the bloodline on the narcissistic side. And that's the one that's doing the most damage. Now, if you have a little empath in your family and you recognize that they're one of the empaths, you got to protect that baby at all costs. Pray over that baby. Protect them. Don't show favoritism or anything like that, because then they'll take that out on the baby. Oh, you're her favorite. When in actuality, the empath can see the path of the baby, just like the narc can see it. Don't play favorites. Treat them the same as you treat every other child, but pray harder over that baby, because you know the path that that baby has to walk. They're walking the same path that you walked. That's why you can see it. That narcissist can see it too. They'll be the one to hurt the baby. Whether it be verbally, physically, mentally, spiritually, they'll be the one. Because they have direct access to that child. Empaths, you have to have a higher calling. You have to have a higher belief. Someone that you pray to, someone or something that you pray to on a regular basis. Your ancestors, God, Yahweh, the Most High, whatever you refer to it as. It doesn't matter. But you need to have something or someone that you pray to higher than yourself. And you need to pray over that baby. And every time you get a chance, bless that baby. Bless all the children. But that empath, you pray over that child. Because that head narc in charge, that handler of the family, can see that baby empath just as well as you can. And remember that their destiny is to stop the empath from breaking the generational curses. Well, that's all I have for you today here on Closing the Gap, where we make a conscious effort to meet you where you're at on your healing and your spiritual journey. If you like my content, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I thank you in advance. Maybe drop a comment. And if you're really feeling my vibe, please don't forget to hit the bell notification so that you know the next time that I upload. We'll see you next time here on Closing the Gap.